Hello again. How we doing? This is Dave from Analogy ADHD Coaching, and I wanted to share the second in my series on neurotypical parents of ADHD kids. So, what I want to talk about today are stubborn, spoiled brats with no moral compass, otherwise known as kids with ADHD. Obviously, that's not true. But again, as a kid growing up in the 70s, that's precisely what I was labeled because there was a limited understanding of the differences between how I was conceiving of the world and events that were going on and parenting instructions that I was given and the way that my neurotypical peers reacted. So, what I'm talking about on this one is when your kid misbehaves, understand why, not what. It is very likely that their response, their outward expression of defiance, frustration, stubbornness, is not an intentional attempt to be dishonest or to be stubborn. That's not the thought going through your kid's head. But when the kid is screaming their head off in the grocery store because you won't buy them Fruit Loops, there's going to be a grandma in the aisle who is looking at your kid and going, oh, look at that spoiled little brat. It's going to happen. I'm trying to give you some ideas so that you are not part of that crowd. So let's just take 3 examples here. Let's take what I just gave you, a tantrum. Kids have tantrums all the time. It's obviously, in tiny babies, the only functional way they've got to voice their disapproval. They cry and scream. There really aren't any other options. They cannot log a formal protest, with the parenting board. They can just scream. As your kid gets older, that has worked for them to whatever degree you've allowed it. And we're going to get into how you deal with appropriate boundaries and consequences for misbehavior. That'll be in another video. But before you can get to punishment, understand why. It's completely appropriate to have a consequence for your kid if they have ADHD. This is not a get out of jail card. A kid with ADHD who is permitted to act in whatever way they want because the poor child has ADHD and they can't help themselves is being done an enormous disservice. But let's take that kid who's having a tantrum. Maybe they are just a spoiled brat and they want what they want and you won't give it to them, and by God, they're going to make you pay in the only way that has worked for them their whole lives. But they might be overwhelmed. If you've got them in the grocery store and they are seeing all of these delicious looking cereal with cartoon characters on the boxes, they're probably on sensory overload. It's not that we have autism, although we do have some characteristics of that. We definitely reach a threshold of stimulation, at which point it basically overloads our reason, and your kid might be so overstimulated, over challenged, over processing that they lose the ability to be reasonable. Right? consider that as a possibility. Consider that they just might be scared. Maybe, you know, you almost got into a car accident on the way to the grocery store. Well, obviously, as an adult, you understand cause and effect kind of things. If it was just a matter of, you know, somebody pulled out, you slammed on the brakes, no harm, no foul, they may not comprehend that. Now suddenly the world just became an unpredictable, scary place, and we have a difficult time moving off of that because everybody needs to have a grasp on how does the world work. But somebody with ADHD, the number of possibilities of how things could go wrong just seems to be far higher. Because of our divergent thinking, we can go, oh, well, there could be a moose popping out of the mailbox. There could be, and you don't see that externally, and your kid is not going to articulate that to you, but they are possibly still ruminating about an event and all of the other conceivable ways that they could have something horrible happen in the next moment. And they're just not past that. And they're not processing the Fruit Loops at the moment. And it's absolutely true that maybe they are just unhappy that you won't buy the Fruit Loops. That does not mean you should buy the Fruit Loops. Understand that the emotional responses of somebody with ADHD are extreme. When we get into this loop of, I want that, she won't give it to me, it's not fair. I want that, she won't give it to me, it's not fair. I want that, she won't give it to me, it's not fair. And we start to ruminate and we play it over and over. And each time we think it through, it's like, that's not fair. Oh, that's really not fair. Oh, that is horribly unfair. And it gets to be more monumental as we go. The whole making a mountain out of a molehill. Good Lord, we are good at that as ADHD people. So understand those could be the reasons why they are doing this seemingly willful, baby, I want my way kind of thing. Let's look at another one. Lying. All kids lie. They are always going to be testing the ideas of how does this world work? If I say something that's true, does that get me good results? If I say something false, does it get me bad? Oh, look, I said something false, it got me good. That's an every kid thing. That is part of maturing. But there are a few specific ADHD things that are going to play into that lying. One of which is we have a much greater difficulty at putting ourselves in your emotional shoes. We are very I focused. It's a very hard thing to step out of our frame of reference and see it from your side. It takes a lot of maturity. It takes a lot of time. It was not something I was even remotely good at until probably college. So your 7-year-old just might have no concept of what does it feel like to be on the other side of them telling their little fib or misleading you. They may not understand the toll that takes on the other person. Will they learn that? Yes. Should they know that? They should eventually. Yes. But innately they may not. Another possibility on lying, we make mistakes a lot. oh my, do we make mistakes? I'm going to do a whole series on self-image and self-worth. And I can tell you that as many times as you believe we make mistakes and mess things up, you don't catch the half of them. We are the only ones who are aware of every single failure, every single mistake, every single slip of our minds. And it is taxing. And it is very possible that when you ask, who broke that? Not me. Right? Well, it might not be that they don't care that it's broken or that they, you know, have already absolved themselves of responsibility. It may be that they can't even bring themselves to admit out loud their 874th failure of the day, the one that you currently are irritated with. They're carrying the baggage of all of those things they forgot, things they overlooked, things they overreacted to and are embarrassed by afterwards. It is very possible that they are telling you a lie because the truth is very difficult to bear when you are faced with repeated failure. Let's do one more. Failure to willingly try something new. Whether that's new food, a new activity, a new, you know, carpool plan with your friends. It doesn't really matter what it is. The world, as I mentioned before, when we have the creativity that our minds give us, we see a million more ways of things to go worse than you do. It very well may be that they're worried of what the consequences might be. Oh, there are so many more ways that that food might be disgusting and make them feel sick than they can imagine ways that it would be delicious and fun and wonderful. That is just a reality of our minds. If you think of almost any circumstances, any situation, there are a lot more ways that it could go bad than there are ways it could go good. A lot of times there is one or a very small handful of positive outcomes and an infinite number of negative ones. Their resistance to change may be that they're imagining, oh God, this is so not likely to work out well. This is a terrible idea. And then their emotional dysregulation kicks in and they go, it's not just terrible, it's the worst idea ever. Oh no, it's the worst idea times 10. And then they start to blow that up. So just consider that it might be fear of the unknown. You very well may have a very clear idea of, if we do this, we will get this outcome. They don't have that. Share that with them. Explain why we're changing, what the effect is going to be, and the fact that you've thought through the consequences and you're not leading them blindly into the unknown. It just might be a lack of understanding. It might be that they don't comprehend all of the variables that you are describing. Not understanding how things work is stressful to us. So maybe it's not that they don't trust you, they just don't, like, they're literally going, I can't understand what you're telling me to do, so I'm not going to do it. It very well may be that they are resisting and they're fighting you because they don't know how to do and how to carry out successfully what you are asking of them. Maybe they need it broken down into some smaller steps. Maybe you need a little picture book. Maybe you need a bullet list. Whatever is going to work for them. But just asking them to, I don't know, separate the trash from the recycling. Maybe they're not following. What do you mean separate? A lot of times we get very particular about words. A word has, separate as in wait. Take each individual item of trash and separate the recyclable pieces from the non-recyclable pieces? Are you telling me to disassemble that, packaging into recyclable and non-recyclable subcomponents? You'd be surprised at the way that our minds sometimes just think of things in the most odd way. And so, um, that's my suggestion, is regardless of what the situation is, if your kid is misbehaving and is doing something contrary to what your instructions are, ask them, why are you doing that? What are you feeling? Are you worried? Are you scared? Are you confused? Are you embarrassed? Um, will you always get an honest answer to those? No, especially not the embarrassed one. They're likely to bury that one for you because, you know, if you're embarrassed by something, letting it out in the open as a child is not exactly your first instinct. So just take the time to understand why they're doing it. Do not insert your values, your procedures. If it's the kind of thing where, well, if I had done that, that would mean that I was telling my parent F you. Um, that's not necessarily like what they're doing. Understand it first. Then you can deal with what the appropriate consequences are for those actions and how to address the issue and get back to a situation where you've got compliance and understanding, but through their lens, not through yours. So, this is the kind of thing that I can absolutely help with. If anyone is interested in some insights into why their kids may be having certain behavioral issues, I've got some insights into that. Is it the same for everyone? Clearly not. A kid who is having a tantrum might be a million reasons. Why is yours having a tantrum right now? If you can get to the bottom of that, they will feel the relief of knowing that you understand them and that you don't blame them, and they will start to build their own skill set for responding in a way that's different than what is coming naturally at the moment. You will help them grow. You will help them mature. They will thank you. I thank you. Have a great day, guys.